Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Colin Fruke. I'm the Marketing Manager at CCIQ, and I'll be your facilitator for today. Joining me is the Founder and Executive Director of Salesmasters International, Peter McKeon. G'day, Peter.
G'day, Colin. How are you? Hi, everyone.
Very well. So CCIQ's teamed up with our partners and some of our members to offer a webinar series which gives businesses a variety of tools and resources that they can use to get back on their feet after the coronavirus pandemic. We've developed topics across themes of government support, business management, marketing, communications, e-commerce, and small business selling, of which today's webinar forms part. It goes without saying that how businesses used to operate will no longer necessarily be effective in today's post-COVID-19 environment. Your customers' purchasing techniques might have changed and their preferences, and also possibly you might need to look at a new target market altogether. So SMEs need to rethink how they engage and how they communicate with customers and rethink new lead opportunities. So today, Peter's going to take you through a series of sales techniques to adapt to this rapidly changing business landscape. Before we start, if you want to ask a question at any point during the webinar, you can do that using the chat box that appears in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So I'll now hand over to Peter to take you through today's presentation.
Thanks very much, Colin, and thank you everyone for giving up 30 minutes or so of your valuable time. I guess it's now my responsibility to ensure I can make it as valuable as I possibly can for you. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just flick off my webcam here so you can focus on some of the presentations that I had, what I've got for you. The first thing, I just thought I'd give you a bit of an overview regarding the actual landscape. Just want to make sure is that webcam off, Colin?
Yes, Peter, it is now.
That's great. Okay, sorry about that. So in terms of what today's webinar is about, we're going to talk a little bit about, first off, the actual landscape. Initially, how to adjust your sales approach post the crisis. Look, the truth is, everyone, things are very different now. Post-COVID-19 may have changed the way that we work and certainly where we work, but one thing that it hasn't changed is our need to actually get commercial results. And I feel your pain because we here at Salesmasters, we're feeling it too. Things like travel restrictions, temporary hiring freezes, changes in market demand, working from home, some of the confusion around job seeker, job keeper, all create massive challenges and make it harder and harder to actually sell. So today we must focus, we must actually be there for our customers. And I don't say this as a bit of rhetoric on some sort of corporate boardroom wall. I really mean that. We actually have to be there, genuinely be there and connect with them today. So today what we're going to do is we're going to explore a couple of what I call NIN or need it now tips on how to actually achieve that so we can pivot our approach to reflect these times. We're also going to very shortly, actually, I'm going to be talking to you about a sales story and what's that actually mean post-COVID-19, how important the sales story really is and how we can create one that resonates with our customers. And we'll wrap up our webinar today with how to maintain existing relationships. It's the final piece, and we're going to be focusing on these relationships. And I'm not just going to talk to you about why that's important, but I want to have this webinar to really give you some tangible how-tos moving forward. So I guess to kick it off, what actually is selling in Australia today? It's a good question. Well, my view of the world regarding sales is I think that selling is about creating an environment where an act of good faith can take place. I was going to say that again. I just want that to sink in. It's creating an environment where an act of good faith can take place. Selling obviously is based on relationships, and relationships are about people. They're not about businesses, they're not about products, they're not about services, they are about people. And without relationships, the process becomes impersonal, sometimes it becomes imposing, and obviously much more cumbersome. But without a relationship, it's simply we can't grow a connection. Moreover, people generally avoid connecting with people because they want to take advantage of them. And the truth of the matter is that a salesperson who has the attitude of wanting something from the client, instead of wanting something for the client, the type of energy that they give off is self-evident. We got a very, very simple philosophy here at Salesmasters, and the philosophy is this: we love the client and use the money, don't love the money and use the client. And that's at the core of everything that we do. And I'm encouraging you to kind of move forward with that line of thinking. The businesses, we're always talking about B2B or B2C, business to business or business to consumer, maybe business B2G, business to government. But today, in my view, it's all about H to H. It's human to human. This is the new environment that we work in. And it is those selling organizations and those salespeople who can authentically and transparently connect with their people through best practice that are going to actually set themselves up for really good, some really good opportunities in the future. So when we talk about connecting, again, it's a buzzy word. How do we actually connect with customers? I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive on this, but there's a thing in sales that is called above the line and below the line communication. Above the line, as you can see there, is all the logical stuff that we speak about when we are interacting with customers. You know, we talk about facts and figures and data, delivery times, price, features, benefits, all of these things. And they're really, really, really important, really important. But the truth of the matter is where people make buying decisions is what we call below the line, which is more of an emotional sense. When people have a genuine sense of connection to an individual, a brand, or individual brand or a company, where they feel that they're dealing with someone that has genuine trust and credibility, you know, authentic empathy, people feel listened to, transparency, all of these things build the emotional below the line connection. And so one of the tips that I want you to take away from this slide is we no longer need to be out there just only talking about what our products and services will do. And I'll have a bit more to say about this later on. But the truth of the matter is that post-COVID-19, the whole world of buying and selling has changed. You know, few people actually would disagree that engaging with customers post this pandemic, it's totally changed the way that we will interact as salespeople. Isolation, things like social distancing, they've disrupted standard selling approaches because it's changed buying behavior. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make here with this slide is that people at the end of the day are still well people, and they will always buy based on some combination of emotion, logic, and credibility. They're going to make their decisions based on budget, personal needs, and connections. So when we're out interacting with customers, it's not just about the products and services, it's about how we actually position ourselves with them in that relationship. If you've ever wanted to actually ask yourself, you know, ever wondered why some people are consistently effective in selling, you're always going to find one thing that you'll find in common with every single successful business or every successful selling salesperson. These people have some sort of a conscious process that they follow. They've got some sort of a sales process. Now there's just two up there on the up there on the screen. They've got something. They've got a model. They've got a structure. Maybe they've got some sort of a process on how the sale will go. The reality is that these top performers in sales and these businesses, they simply can't function without one. So in a nutshell, a sales process is nothing more than what I would call a systematic approach that involves a series of steps that enable salespeople to close more deals, increase margins, and make more sales through referrals. Without a sales process, you're on a hope plan. Now, if you look at that one on the right, that's got an 8-step process. This is one that we implement to our clients, predominantly B2Bs, so business to business clients. And we go into their environment. One of the biggest things when we do a sales audit in their environment is we ask them, what is your sales process? And they haven't got one. And I said, well, how do your salespeople develop consistency in their approaches? And they say, well, they're salespeople, they should know what to do. And the reality is most don't. Selling is a learnt skill. And most people just are given a set of keys, they're given a database, and they're told to go and sell something. And often it ends in tears. And the reality is the number one thing that is common in terms of all of those poor outcomes is there's no sales process. So if we looked at that on the left-hand side, developing a game plan, all we mean by that is what's your target list? We're not all things to all people. So it's identifying your target list and having some sort of a game plan or an approach to that. We need to make contact. Now, is that post-COVID-19 face-to-face? Is that through an online meeting? Is that through email? Is that via telephone? And what happens after hello? So all of these things under it have a set of skills that are going to ensure that you can execute it effectively. So we need to make contact. Now, most people, because they don't have a process, they end up talking about what they're most comfortable about, which is actually their own product, their own service, or their own company, or themselves. And I need you to consider to get away from that. We need to actually learn how to build desire around ourselves, our brand, our product, and or our service. We've got to sit with the customer and be really, really effective at questioning them, creating the right options for people. Presenting, what does this proposal actually need to look like? And we'll talk more about that later on. We'll talk about how do we remain effective and connected to our existing customers. The business needs to close. The reality is most people are fairly good at lots of parts of this sales process, but when it comes to closing, they don't know. They don't know how to do it. And often all you've got to do, guys, is just ask. I'm not talking about being forward. I'm not talking about being aggressive. I'm not talking about being manipulative. But if you have gone through that process, you've made effective contact, you've created, as I said to you before, below the line connection, you've built good desire around the product or service, you've created the right options for the customer, you've presented the right solution, often all you have to do is ask. Now, this process actually goes a step further because in a B2B environment, you just don't want a customer, you want a customer for life. So then how do we satisfy that customer? And then how do we manage and grow the account for more repeat and referral business? So the takeaway from this slide is that if you're wondering why people are good at selling, almost every man, woman, or business that is effective in that space does so because they have some sort of a process or methodology that they follow. That's just two examples. There's a million out there. Find one that works well for you, that's aligned to your value system. This is not about push, it's about pull. It's about connecting with people. Lots of people say to me, what is selling all about? And they feel selling is about manipulation or profiting at the expense of other people. Well, it's not. It's a structured, systematic approach to solve problems. Moving forward onto the next slide, how do we actually adjust our sales approach and ease the uncertainty? If you look at today, have you noticed how easy it is that all of us rightfully get pretty spooked in times of crisis and uncertainty? What with you look at COVID-19, we just flick back in history, recent history, the recent bushfires that the country went through, the floods, all the panic buying that seems so long ago. The truth is that people love certainty. And considering that sales are often driven by consumer sentiment, there are a couple of things that you can do immediately in your sales endeavors to ease that uncertainty. The first thing I'd ask you to consider to do is to assess yourself. Just have a look at internally. For example, what does your voicemail message sound like? Is it connecting? I'll give you an example. If you were to ring my voicemail or anyone on my team's voicemail message right now, and it went to our message bank, here's what you'd hear. Thank you for calling Peter from Salesmasters. I'm currently serving customers at the moment. Please leave your name and number and I'll return your call within 4 business hours. And the reason that we do that is because when people contact us, they want certainty that their call will be returned. Now, if I'm facilitating all day and I can't sit on the phone and solve this problem, when I ring them back, let's say at lunchtime, I will say, look, Jack or Mary, I can't deal with that now, but I could call you back after 5 o'clock or tomorrow morning suits you better for me to address this in more detail. So just think about, what does your voicemail say? Is it just the standard, please leave your name and number and I'll call you back when I can? Or can we be a bit more connecting to create more certainty in our voicemail message? Email signature, depending, from time to time, depending on the clients, and I'm going to talk more about this later on in this webinar, but with your email signature, what we're signing off with a number of clients is 3 words: here to help. So are you conveying a sense of connection to your customers? I just want you to just think about it, or is it just the same? Your LinkedIn profile, is it up to date? Is it relevant? Does it reflect who you are? We're going to talk shortly about, creating your own brand. So I'd just really like you to look inside yourself and just assess yourself to see if you are doing what you can to ease uncertainty for your customers. The second thing, I'd like you to just start focusing, this is my advice, and people on the call that may be business owners or have salespeople. Obviously, that's a case-by-case scenario. But right now, as we come out of this, I'd like you to focus on short-term goals. My view is to forget about currently at the moment our 2021 projections, our targets or quotas. I mean, my recommendation is that we work with clients and what we can achieve together over the next 30 or 60 days. You know, your goal is to fill the top of your sales funnel. So it's about sitting with your current customers or talking with the current customers, not about everything moving forward, but just about something that we could work together over the short term. Make sure that you optimize your message. The reality is it's all about them, as it should be. You know, don't go in today with your post-COVID. Don't go in today with the same sort of post-COVID-19 message, and certainly don't focus your conversation on revenue. I'll tell you a quick story. We've got a client that's involved in heavy machinery, and they've been doing it fairly tough, understandably, over the last couple of months, as many businesses have. And one of the things that we elected to do as a group is I got together with them and said, well, why don't we start contacting our customers and having what's called a care and connect call. So what we do 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday and Fridays for an hour, 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern Queensland time, this is a national organisation, is we get on the phone and we have what's called a power hour, P-O-W-E-R, hour. And we get the whole sales team on the phone doing care and connect calls. And these aren't buzzy, these aren't calls that are masked sales calls. These are authentic calls that we're calling customers, and not just decision makers, but influencers, everyone in the business, and we're actually finding out, how are you? Oh yeah, we're going okay. No. How are you? How is this affecting you? And it has been absolutely outstanding, just these authentic calls to people for no reason that's helping them. So again, optimize your messaging. And the final thing I'd like you to consider to ease the uncertainty is to grow your network, guys. There is a saying in sales, and I don't know if you've heard this, but your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth, W-O-R-H. If you're not talking to people today, make no mistake, it's highly, highly probable that your competition is. I'd like you to just consider to get involved in digital debates, voice your viewpoint. Everyone has a right to be heard. Post regularly on whatever platform, is most likely to talk to your potential sales pipeline. Now, I don't know whether that's LinkedIn or that's Facebook or it's another platform. But either way, my recommendation is that you need to build your personal brand, and there is no doubt that social selling is the future of sales. And I mentioned earlier that it's about trust and credibility. I spoke about that below the line connection that influence people's buying decisions. So I'd ask you to get very familiar with your target audience. It's cheap, it's effective, it'll pay off if you're not consistent. And if you're a bit of a technophobe, or technology is not your go, I totally get it. But there's so many resources online that will teach you how to post, how to create a decent message, how to do something. If you could just allocate some time, particularly if you're a little quiet at the moment, to start getting involved and really get your social selling out there, it's going to pay off absolutely moving forward. When we're having a sales conversations, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the do's and some of the don'ts when we're having conversations with people. Certainly, I'm very comfortable. It's my recommendation that when we're talking to prospects and customers and clients, ask them how their business has been affected. I'd ask you to consider to become more of a consultant. Like I'm currently working with a client at the moment and just trying to help them. And at the moment they had to put some people off, and now there's the things have changed, and they're going to put on a new salesperson. And I said to this person, Andrew, I said, Andrew, can I just help you in the recruiting of that, in terms of let me interview them? Can we maybe do some psychometric assessments on them? Can I just bring something, because this is important for you? And so become more of a consultant rather than a salesperson. Look, tell your customers that there's plenty of people out there still buying. You know, I was talking to a group of people last week, and you know, quite frankly, it was a bit of doom and gloom. And I was listening to this guy talk about, you know, it's very quiet and no one's buying at the moment. And well, you know, that's to me is a choice. It's a glass half full or a glass half empty. But the reality is, you know, some businesses have absolutely exploded. You know, let me think. Groceries, for example, medical supplies, gone crazy. Pizzas have gone crazy. What else? Cleaning companies have gone crazy. You know, liquor and wine stores, absolutely. You know, just out of control. I mean, someone asked me yesterday. I was talking to someone on the phone. They said, "How are you going? You're drinking much more?" And I said, "I'm drinking in pandemic proportions." So when I read that, just to keep up the spirit of the event, and that was a joke actually. So, but what was funny about it is that alcohol's up 20%. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. What I am saying is that there's plenty of businesses out there. So when you're talking to them, let them know that people are still buying. And your goal ultimately is to be doing stuff now to make sure that you've got your top of funnel filled for when we come out of that. Now, having said that, there's a few don'ts. Don't make it all about you. People don't care about us at the moment. They care about themselves, and rightfully so. So make sure that we've got a good structured call plan where we're going to pick up the phone and have a conversation with people. It's about them, not about us. Don't ask them if they had to lay off people. I just don't think it's a cool question. Let them come to us with that type of intel if you don't already know. My recommendation is don't ignore the pandemic. It's real, it's factual, we're living it. Everyone has been affected by it. But I'm just saying, don't make it front of mind, and certainly don't make it an excuse in your selling conversations. And really, really importantly, don't put any pressure on anyone at the moment to buy, because it's not going to work. They're dealing with their own issues. As I said to you at the start of this webinar, be there for them when they come out of it. So I'd encourage you to try something different. You know, if COVID-19, I guess, has shown us anything, it's made everyone aware, you know, employers, employees, customers, all of us, that there is indeed another way to connect. Online meetings, make no mistake, they're here to stay. My view is that they're not going to replace the face-to-face meeting. However, they will, from a selling perspective, I feel they're going to become very much part of the new normal. And there are some very, very good reasons for that. But the primary motivator, in my view, is that that's going to drive more of these online meetings in the future, is that they're just simply far more cost effective compared to a physical meeting. You know, if you just think about it, an online meeting only requires a computer, it requires a mobile device and some sort of an internet connection. That's it. You can do it anywhere. On the other hand, you know, a physical meeting often requires time. It sometimes requires, you know, time and money to travel, and all of that leads to reduced productivity. And I guess I just want to say this: for those of you, as I said to you before, that you're a bit technophobic or you're not comfortable with technology, don't let your ego get in the way of your bank balance. Like, if you're not comfortable with having online meetings, that's fine. I get it. I really get it. But that said, it's not about you. It's about your customer. And I just think it would be an absolute tragedy if a customer were to contact you as we come out of this post-COVID-19 and they wanted to meet you, you know, initially online, and you didn't have the confidence or the competence to do that. So, you know, pick a platform, any platform, GoToMeeting, this one, Zoom, I don't know, Microsoft Teams, Skype, whatever, Google Hangouts, whatever works. And just again, jump on Google, find out a couple of how-to videos, and you'll be up and running in no time. Please don't get left behind regarding technology. I said at the start of this webinar that we're going to need a sales story that really, really resonates. I think this is so important. You have to tell customers a story that will deeply resonate with them. And what I mean by that is you have to find something in their business or service that can help them today. For example, if I went to my customers and said that you need to be training your sales team, I went out to my customers, you need to be training your sales team right now while it's quiet. That wouldn't be very effective, obviously, as most of my clients, as I mentioned earlier, they've suffered a revenue decline and they're not going to be receptive to such a recommendation. Also, that approach is all about me and it's not about them, so not going to work. But if I said to them, look, because it's quiet, I would like to come into your business and develop and train your sales team. So when the COVID-19 restrictions lift and some sense of normality comes back into your market, your salespeople are geared to go. Because my goal right now is I want to ensure that you maximize every single opportunity as we come out of this. So when you get back on your feet as quickly as possible, that's going to be advantageous for you. And incidentally, because I'm quiet, I'd like to do it for nothing. And it was from that very point that the Salesmasters alumni program was born. And so what we did is we picked a number of past clients who are really struggling at the moment. I went to them and I said, I want to help. My team want to help. What can we do? Let me go back. Sorry about that. I want to help. And what can we do? So we have put together a series of complementary programs, development programs, both individually, small groups, larger groups. How to qualify people virtually, for example. How to connect with people more effectively. How to maximize online meetings, whatever it may be. And the feedback that we're getting from our client base now is it's blown me away. Now, I didn't do it for any strategic reason. I did it because they needed help, but I've been around long enough to know that people connect emotionally, and it is that type of authenticity and that type of a sales story that you need to be thinking about. What can you do with your clients today that can help them, that's going to position you most favorably for opportunities tomorrow? Finally, I'd like to move on to how to maintain relationships with accounts. Look, I won't take up too much of my time because I've only got a couple of minutes left, but basically connecting with one person at a time. It's no longer a numbers game. Businesses, as I said before, businesses don't have the emotion, people do. Ask permission to engage. What we do at Salesmasters here, whenever we put a proposal out there to people, we ask them this question. We've got a philosophy here at Salesmasters where we don't follow up unless we have permission to do so. I just wanted to ensure that you're happy to keep the communication channels open. When people, I've never had someone say no to that. They say, yes, that's great. Now, rather than here's the salesperson on the phone doing the follow-up, we're following people up because we've sought their permission to engage. Next one, stop selling products and stop selling products and services and start selling solutions. People want outcomes, they want results, not necessarily products and services, and I touched on that at the outset. And finally, with a proposal, guys, stop quoting and hoping. Make sure that your proposal is based on value. Sending proposals at the end of the day, look, it's a tense and it's a very time-consuming process for both you, both salespeople, and for the business. And let's face it, after all, the proposal or the quote, it largely determines whether or not we're going to win the work. So it's pretty important. And that's why it's really essential that your process is optimized to maximize win rates. So it's what I call BAT, B-A-T. Make sure in your proposals you have qualified for budget, authority, and time frame. That takes me up to the end of my webinar. So what I would like to do next is just put this webcam back on. There we go. Okay. This is part one of three parts of the series. So I'd like you to go to this website. We've set up a CCIQ landing page just for the people on this webinar and CCIQ members and affiliates. Rather than me coming at you and telling you what you need to hear, what I'd like to do is get your input, everyone. So we've set up a landing page there. I'd like you to go to that website. I'd like you to give some feedback and some input into what you would like to see covered in the next session. And I and my instructional design team will do everything we possibly can. If we can't cover it on 2, we'll do it in 3. So we're coming back to you, the CCIQ members and affiliates, with some real value. So it's salesmasters.com.au/CCIQ. Go there, give us the input, and we'll do everything we can to maximize it. So on that note, I'm going to flick you back to Colin. If there's any time for any questions, happy to answer them. But thank you very much. I hope that's brought you some insight, and look forward to our next one coming up on the 28th of May. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter. That was awesome and an amazing effort in 25 minutes to get through that much content. Really good refresher and reminder, I guess, in terms of, some things never change, pandemic or no pandemic. It's human to human. You need to have a sales structure. The tip that I took away was, make sure that your customers know that people are still buying, because that consumer confidence thing is really everything at times like these. We've
Absolutely.
got a couple of questions, if you're
Sure.
happy to answer them.
Yeah, love
Uh,
to.
so the first one comes from Matt. He said, "Hi, Peter. In the current environment, clients are under pressure and are certainly more sensitive." I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Um, what do you recommend doing differently in delivering tough news to clients without damaging the relationship? So how do you have a difficult conversation?
Um, well, that would have a lot to do on how transparent your initial relationship is. Difficult conversations, whether it's post-COVID, during COVID, or pre-COVID, are there. That's the day-to-day running of businesses. Relationships sometimes turn pear-shaped. The answer to that, I'd happy to take that offline and talk one-on-one with that particular questioner to find out what the current relationship looks like. If it is
Mm,
testy or a little bit, there's different approaches based on, I guess the connection or the depth and breadth of that relationship, if that makes sense. Happy to
mhm.
take that offline.
Okay, yep, good. The next question is from Simon, and it's about the use of technology in the sales process. So I think one thing that is obviously going to happen is people are going to use webinars or emails or technology a lot more than they have. Can you give a brief example in terms of how you've worked with a client to integrate technology into the sales process, and at what point and how it might work best? And I'm clear that that's obviously dependent upon the business model, but is there an example that you could give?
Yes, there is, and I won't name the CRM, but if you don't, just broadly speaking, if you don't have a CRM and understand it and work it effectively, you're going to get left behind. The technology and software available out there today, and this is actually just a new realization for Salesmasters, who are fortunate enough to come across a company that's helping us really bring us into the next decade. We've had a CRM for 15, 18 years, but now with technology moved on, it's maximizing the way that we can engage with our customers. So an example would be that engineering, that heavy equipment company I spoke about before, was really fumbling 12, 18 months ago, had a lot of data on spreadsheets, trying to make sense of it all. They populated it into a CRM. They appointed an internal CRM champion, which is this person is really accountable for getting pure data, sending out the messaging, and it's had a profound effect. So the technology and what it can do for your business from a sales perspective, from an automation perspective, is profoundly important. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I should just pipe up at that point and say that we've got, over the next couple of weeks, we've got a few webinars scheduled in. We've already done a few in terms of technology subjects around choosing the right CRM for your business on a budget, building your own e-commerce store within the day. So technology is a huge empowerer for small business. You don't have to spend huge amounts of money, to get the technology solution that you need. So I'd encourage all of our members to look in the members area, log into our website, and you use your password to access all of the recordings that we've done in the past from those webinars, because there's a good bunch of them there that'll help prime you for your next stage of sales. Um,
Absolutely.
and one more question, which is probably more a question for me than you, Peter. I think it's we have a travel retail business in the CBD, and I'm looking at operating from home to adapt to post-COVID. What government grants are available currently for small businesses to improve their IT software or online shopping, for improving our operation going mobile? So that's a good question. Uh, in general, you can look for, simply go to cciq.com.au and click on coronavirus. We've got a page there which helps you understand what available government support is there. I did a quick look while the webinar was in progress, and if there's a Business Queensland used to have a small business digital grants program up to $10,000 to help businesses be more flexible with their hardware, software, and services. But it looks like that round has expired as of December. I'm not currently aware of any more cash grants that are available to small business for those kinds of reasons. But if you go to our website and click on coronavirus, you'll see that a bunch of corporations or corporates are actually giving away free trials or free resources at the moment if you qualify as a small business operator. So there's potential there for you to get, free Zoom licenses and other things through that tab. So I'd say to check out our webpage for that questionnaire. So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you, Peter, again for taking the time to present.
Very
and looking
welcome.
forward to the next webinar on the 28th. I think that one's going to have a bit of a common objections type flavour, and I'm sure that there'll be new objections that are brought up from customers in this whole coronavirus situation that we're in.
Correct.
So I just want to thank everyone for attending today. We'll send out a copy of the webinar recording and the slides later today. And obviously, don't forget to register for upcoming webinars. Go to cciq.com.au, click on events, and you'll find all of our webinars upcoming listed there. And we'll also share links to our upcoming webinars in the email that comes out later today. So thank you, everyone, for subscribing and for joining us today. Thanks again, Peter, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.